Hello. I am going to go over a few of the commonly asked questions during the study session or lab today on Monday, March 7th. I think this might be helpful for everyone to have. So, many questions were about step 5. So, this is the scaled down version of the APA style laboratory report, and everything that should be included is in the rubric. Remember, it should be typed 12-point font, about 5 to 8 pages in length, and it should be double spaced with 1-inch margins, and it's going to be due before 11:55 p.m. on Sunday. Remember that as a group you are submitting one of these papers, and then each of you individually are submitting one of the group evaluation forms. The next thing to look at is the rubric here. So let's walk through each of these together. Remember that you're going to also include a title page in APA format. Here we go, which includes each group member's name and all the other necessary information on it. And then after your title page, which is formatted using APA style formatting, you're going to move on to your introduction. Your introduction is going to include your hypotheses and the research question. You might want to refer back to Chapter 1. Chapter 1 talks about what is a research question and what are hypotheses. Talks about that on page 9, 9 through 11. It really focuses on that. So you might want to revisit that there. I'm not looking for anything huge here. It could just be about a page. You might want to talk a little bit about some of the background research. That's what you were reading about last week and that you did your literature review on. And then you're going to go right into your research question and then the hypotheses. The hypotheses, you want to make sure that you explain what your variables are so that the hypotheses make sense before you just jump right into them. Typically, you're going to explain that in the last paragraph of your introduction. You might also want to revisit Chapter 2 on page 45. It walks through what is in an empirical APA style paper and what each of the sections should include. We went over this in lab, I believe the first or second week, so you could also revisit your notes from lab. The next section is methodology. Make sure you're using appropriate APA heading. This is the methods section. And then you have 3 different subheadings within that section. The sample, which includes an explanation of the participants and design. Here you will include explanation of your demographics that we talked about in lecture today. In addition to, you'll specify the design. This is where you want to write out, this is a 2x2 design. And what that means, right, is what the variables are, your 2 independent variables, what the levels of those variables are. You also want to specify if it's between or within subjects. And you're also going to specify what the dependent variable is. It will seem redundant with the results section, but the results section specifies all of those things as well. But in addition, it specifies the type of analysis that you're going to do on that design. So jumping back up here, the materials subsection of your methods section is going to include an explanation or description of your operational definition for your dependent and independent variables. You're going to go into detail about the materials that were used. The procedure includes how you administered that survey. If you review and go back to your notes, in addition to going back to the class data collection forms, there is an instruction section there that specifies the procedure. You might want to revisit that. The results section specifies the description of analyses, and that's going to be what we did in class. And you want to make sure, though, that you write out all of the analyses. Remember, in class, we typed out only part of it. So you have to make sure that you write out all of it, including the type of analysis, include the independent variables, each of their levels, and the dependent variable. And you're also going to include the 2 main effects and the interaction. You're going to describe those. The interpretation is not just restating your results, but interpreting them. This is typically the discussion section. So as you can see, I don't actually have a discussion section here, but you can use the interpretation as your discussion section if you wish. So if you put discussion as a subheading or as a heading, I will know that you're doing the interpretation. But make sure that your interpretation explains whether or not your analyses supported or refuted your theory, and whether or not your hypotheses were met. These things just specify generally what I'm looking for. Make sure your writing is clear, that you've checked your grammar, that your paper is organized, that you don't have any typos, and that APA formatting was all updated. If you have any questions about those sorts of formatting issues, you can always refer back to the APA sample paper in the back of your text, which begins on page 507. And then, of course, don't forget to upload your evaluation forms, and what to include in that is specified here. All right, guys, good luck. I'm sure you'll do great, and I look forward to reading your papers.